Thank you so much for taking the time
Delighted, thank
to
you.
speak to us. And I wanted to start by asking you, what were your early musical influences? What made you want to become a singer-songwriter,
I
a
would say
musician?
George Michael. For me, Wham, George Michael. For me, he was just the most rounded of all artists as a songwriter, as a performer, as a singer. Um, and then later in life, when I met him as a human being, I mean, just an incredible person. So for me, growing up, it was Wham, George Michael, um, and pop music. It was, I was heavily influenced by pop music.
It's really refreshing to hear that because you get a lot of kind of like snobby people in the
Mm.
music business, kind of talking about pop music like it's a lesser thing, but I think it was Jeff Lynne from ELO who said pop music is the best genre because
Well, yeah. I
he
mean,
combines all the different elements of everything.
yeah. Well, I mean, like pop music is an abbreviation of popular music, so
Yeah,
it's there's there's a bit of pop music for everybody, regardless of what genre you say that you follow. Um, and it's very hard to pigeonhole pop music exactly. I mean, it's
yeah,
so broad, it's so much larger than the other genres. So yeah, I mean, yeah, snob. Well, yeah, it doesn't bother me. I'm very proud of it. That's where I come
yeah.
from as an artist, and it's where I will remain.
And it's also where pretty much all of us, um, myself included, it's just the best music. It's just
Yeah,
you can't even explain why you love it. It's just,
yeah,
and I was listening to your music this morning before the interview,
yeah.
and it's just so melodic. I think that's
Yeah, melody driven, definitely. That is pop music, melody driven. Great production, especially through the '90s. It was all about the collaboration with the producers, whether it was the Max Martins or the Dennis Pops, or with the Backstreet Boys and the Britney Spearses, and it was all those big Swedish producers that created these incredible anthemic pop songs with incredible melodies that are still very powerful today.
I mean it's and
Yeah,
they're timeless.
they
And
are. Yeah.
so when you started out kind of being inspired by Wham and George Michael, did you think like I want to sing, I want to be a performer, or were you just enjoying it as a fan at that stage?
I probably enjoying it more so. But the first record I ever bought was Last Christmas by Wham, and I got into music through that, and that was a very young age, 7 or 8 years of age, I guess. And then from there, I I kind of listened to. I had older brothers and sisters, older siblings that had this vast record collection, everything from Culture Club to Frank Sinatra, everything in between, just all of it, rock, pop, indie, folk, my mum and dad's music. We had the vinyl player in the house, and all of my brothers and sisters emigrated to New York, and I was left in the household on my own with this record collection and this vinyl player. So I would come home from school and just listen to all of these records, and I remember like picking up an Alan Parsons project. I must have been 11 or 12 years of age and listening to Alan Parsons project, Eye in the Sky, as far as my eyes can see, and I was just mesmerized by this melody and this vocal, and it just took me on this journey, and I just loved music. It was all sort of, it didn't have to just be pop. There was an Eagles record, the vinyl, with when you opened it up, it was that incredible photograph of I think it was Yankee Stadium, from a helicopter, and it's just the most iconic image I've ever seen, and it burnt in my brain. This magnificent photo. When you closed it, it was a flight case of the Eagles live, and I listened to that on repeat. So I mean, I had a very, very vast record collection because of my family. Very, very, very different genres, and because of that, I've got a lot of, most people say this, a very eclectic taste. And I think when it comes to music, I wouldn't say that I only listen to pop. I listen to everything.
And it all has an influence, I guess,
Very
on
much, yeah.
songwriting.
Whether you're writing with the piano, or you're writing with the guitar, or you're writing without either. I mean, these melodies and these things that have influenced you all influence your writing. I believe.
And when did you first? Do you remember the first time you ever sang or performed or kind of started getting into that side of it?
Well, the very, very first time I remember was at karaoke. I was about 10 or 11 years of age. We were on holiday. I went on holiday down to Killarney with my cousin Trev and his mum and dad, and there was a kids karaoke thing in the hotel that we were staying at, and I sang a Phil Collins song called, which one was it? It was You Can't Hurry Love, or one of those. No, it wasn't. It was Groovy Kind of Love. That's it. Groovy Kind of Love, from the Buster soundtrack. I don't know why. Very strange for a 10 or 11-year-old to sing this song, but I sang that song. And that was the very, very first time. Then I joined a school band. I remember shortly after that joining just a rock band. We were doing Bryan Adams and Nirvana covers and stuff. We won a few pub gigs, kind of Battle of the Band type of stuff we won. And then I left that at 16 and well, like I was jumping in and out of different school bands. And then at 16 I saw the advert for Boyzone in the newspaper. And I joined the band at 16, and off it went from there.
And what was that like to kind of become a star so young?
I guess the first year we travelled around. We weren't stars in Ireland. We grafted for the first year. When I say grafting, a lot of rock bands will have a big face. They'd be cringing because they were in a garage for 10 years before they were discovered. We had a year travelling around Ireland in an old transit van doing nightclubs, and it was pretty tough grafting. 3 nights a week. Getting cigarette butts thrown at us and bottles of beer bounced off our heads and getting into fights. Yeah, because in Ireland there was no such thing as pop music in Ireland at all across the board. We're coming from Tin Lizzy and U2 and a lot of indie music and so on out of Ireland. There was zero pop music. We saw a lot of pop bands come into Ireland like Take That and E17 and all that, touring and selling out arenas, but no homegrown talent. So there was auditions held in Dublin for a boy band, and I joined the band, and off we went, grafting around the country, trying to convince people that pop music had a place in Ireland. As a homegrown band, we deserved it, and we thought, the country deserved talent coming out of its own country, I guess. So we did that for a year, and then we got lucky enough to get onto the Smash Hits show, which was this big touring show around the UK. So we travelled over here and got on that as the best band on the road, so that we were up against 3 other bands. So a battle of the band again, against a band called Juice and a band called Optimistic. And out of that, we won that. And the winner got to perform at the Docklands Arena at the Smash Hits Poll Winners Party, which was the big TV show Will Smith hosted. And, it was, all the American artists came over, and it was a really big deal. It was a massive TV show. And we won, and off the back of that, we had a single, Love Me For A Reason, released. And that's it. The rest is history. Boyzone went catastrophic then, 18 months later.
But when you first got signed up, it actually was pretty tough then.
Yeah, well, we had nothing. We had not, there was no money, there was no budgets. We just had to go and graft and get people to believe in us. And even then, when we came to England, there was no belief at that time, because there was never a pop group from Ireland. Nobody knew what this was supposed to be like. We were copying a band called Take That in the UK and trying to be the Irish answer to Take That. And as we progressed and the hits started to, as we started to convince people with the music, it just went bigger and bigger, and it was a bit of a phenomenon. Yeah, it just kind of went crazy. I guess Stephen and I kind of took a step forward and became the lead vocalists of the band. We didn't try to do that. It's just it was a natural thing that happened. So we were doing more. We were, people, we were on the cover of more magazines, I guess, and you get to be asked to do more interviews, and so it kind of changes. Even though we didn't know each other beforehand, you kind of put into this pot together, and you make of it what you can, and some people come out of it certain ways, and I guess I don't know. I guess I came out of it well. I did well. I managed to have a solo career off the back of it.
Incredible solo career.
And things just progressed from there. For me, 26 years later, I'm still getting away with it,
And so as it became clear, that you were going to be a star in your own right, did that, was that something that you were kind of aiming for after a while? As more and more people started to talk.
I guess I wanted to do it on my own. 6 years being in the band, and it's crazy. It's a pressure cooker. And it got very intense, and we all wanted to get out. All of us had enough at that time. We wanted a break. I guess that break led to a breakup. My solo career led to more of a breakup for 7 years of the band. But I knew I got a taste of it when Richard Curtis came to me and said about Notting Hill, the movie, and would I sing this song. He asked me to sing that song, and I'd never been asked to sing a song on my own before. It was always the band. So I thought, this is interesting. I want to take a break. This is a perfect stepping stone. I sang the song, and it just went crazy. The movie was a massive success. The song was a success off the back of that, And I was the label then asked me to make an album, so I went and made a record, solo album, and off that came Life is a Roller Coaster. Yeah, Ronan, off that came Life is a Roller Coaster and Loving Each Day with Greg Alexander, and I, as a solo artist, I started to get great momentum, and it went on from there.
And when you say Nothing at All in the studio, were you thinking, you know, this is going to be like an all-time record?
I was very nervous because I was on my own, and I didn't, you know, as a singer, it's enjoyable when you're standing in the studio. I was with Steve Lipson, I remember, who I greatly admired as a producer. To be with Steve in the studio singing this song, I mean, look, this feels too good to be true almost. This is amazing. But you never know what's going to happen. You know, there's great songs out there that never see the light of day, and I'd hoped and wished, and I was seriously nervous, thinking, well, you know, I'm on my own. I don't have these guys to lean on. I'm doing this, you know, if I fall on my own, you know.
Yeah,
it was a nerve-wracking place to be for me after 6 years, and being so young, having that, you know, that support in the 6 years as a band, not have that anymore. It was a scary place. And then when it worked, it was crazy. It was just brilliant.
And do you have a preference, like, you know, because I guess you've been equally successful with Boyzone and then by yourself. Do you have a preference for working in a band or by yourself?
I really enjoyed the band. It made me who I am. It gave me the strength and the tools to perform. But then when you go on your own, you have the freedom to make the record you want to make and how you want to make it, and tour the way you want to tour. And you know, when we were in the 90s, we were all young lads without families, without any responsibility as such. And it's very easy to be in a band and do that. We all realised when we came back in 2007, 2008, before Steo passed, that dynamic had totally changed, because we all had responsibilities outside the band that for us individually were far greater than the band. To be in a band, the band has to be the most important thing for the band to work. Otherwise, it's not your priority, and the performance and the entertainment factor suffers. So, you know, that there's a lot to be said for that, and we got to see that firsthand. We realised that. We would speak about that. So Boyzone became a part-time gig, and you can't do a band part-time. So when we came back, it never really fired on all cylinders like it did in the 90s. And that's just a point of view from us. Maybe there are bands that can work that way, but I'm not so sure.
You prefer to be like fully invested
you
in
have
something.
to be fully invested in your art, definitely.
Yeah. But when you look back on Boyzone and like on boy bands from the 90s, like in the same way that groups like the Temptations from Motown, you know, and the Supremes, like they were all at the front. It wasn't like a drummer and a bassist. Do you think that as time passes, that boy bands from the 90s are going to be remembered the same way? Or do you think that critics were a little bit too harsh about that type of thing? Because they're you know, with hindsight, they rave about the Temptations, but I think like Picture of You, for example, is just like as good a record as anything that came out from Motown.
Yeah, well, thank you, but maybe not. Yeah, I think.
Well, I mean, do you care?
Yeah, no, I don't. There was a time when we did great in the 90s. We really fought for respect, credibility. You know, boy bands don't get credibility, but respect would have been, you know, something. We got respect from the places we should have got respect from. NME or Q, they were never going to respect a boy band, and that's fine. But we don't realise that when you're in it and you're working so hard and you're so passionate about it.
Yeah.
But the places that, you know, the smash hits, the magazines that were, our magazines that were passionate and positive about pop music, gave us all the respect we needed, and we should have been happy.
Fans.
Yeah, and most importantly, the fans.
You guys were the most successful.
Well, you're selling 20,000 seaters, you know, around the country. You know, my God, you can't get more respect than that.
Yeah, for sure.
So, you know, yeah, maybe in time. Like, I think you will, you know, definitely, you look back on songs like Back for Good from Take That, they are incredible records. Unbelievably brilliant, crafted songs.
They're brilliant.
100%. Like, Back for Good is one of the greatest pop songs of the 90s, easily.
And these records like that and like Picture of You, for sure, is just one of those records you put it on and after 10 seconds, it's like,
it's an immediate pop record. Yeah, it feels that way, and no matter what, and
yeah, no matter what,
you know, there's other songs there that
all sorts
Boyzone have done over the years. Yeah, but it is what it is, and it's each their own. Like we came back, we had our farewell tour this year. We started in January. We went across the world, and you know, it was an emotional ride, but it was a great way of us to say goodbye and thank you to everybody that, you know, gave us what they gave us over the years. And we had so many people reliving their youth, you know, at those shows, and that's what it's about. And I'm sure there was a time when people were doing the same with the Detroit Spinners or the Supremes or whatever it was, you know, when through the music reliving their youth, and that's probably the only way bands like us will ever get respect, you know, and that's okay. That's perfect. It's the way it should be.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys will be remembered for a long time to come.
Yeah, we definitely made a dent. You know, we made a dent. Who knows how large?
And would you never say never to
that? No, that's it. Now we finished up in October this year, and we're done. It was an amazing run. Great to be able to write the chapter ourselves and say goodbye the way we want to do. A lot of bands in our place would, if they fizzle out, they disappear, they fall out. And you know, we went through some turbulent times as a band, and to be able to finish it the way we did, we're all very proud. Yeah. On a high, 5 nights at the Palladium here in London, and you know, that's it now. We go away friends with great memories, and we've all got things we're passionate about, we want to do individually.
And so you've done so much, you know, aside from music, acting and hosting your radio show on Magic.
Yeah.
My brother listens to it every morning.
Thank you, cheers.
And
he's the guy that listens. Thanks very much. Cheers.
Well, I'm such a late riser.
That's all right. It's good, man. I wish I was. Yeah.
But yeah. So I wanted to ask, you know, would you ever consider like making music not your main thing?
No. I'm just finishing an album at the moment, which will be out in March.
That's very exciting.
Yeah, first single is a duet with Emily Sandé, and then I've got some other duet partners and collaborations on the album. Awesome. And it's been an incredible journey making this album, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. I've been leaving Magic Radio every morning, going to the studio all day, you know, worn out and exhausted, but the songs have just carried me through, and I can't wait for people to hear it. I feel like I've been holding on to this for ages now, and I can't wait for everyone to hear the first single even.
So it will have been 4 years since your last record.
Yeah, 4 years since the last record, but yeah, for me now, it's time to get an album out, and I really, really hope it's been worth the wait. I really hope people will get a buzz out of this like I am. It's very special, the music.
I'm sure they will. Well, Ronan, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. And I just wanted to finish by asking you, you know, what are your favourite songs from throughout your career?
Of my own or other people's?
From
myself. Look, I mean, the song that you spoke about, When You Say Nothing at All, it's my career record. It's the reason why probably you were talking to me today, why I get to go on tour every other year. But then there's you know, Life is a Roller Coaster is just, you know, it's the one that people want to hear at the end of the show, whether you're singing at someone's wedding, you know, or you're in Wembley Stadium. It is the song that just gets people going, gets them on their feet. And to have a song like that everyone knows the words of is very special. So Roller Coaster is that song, and getting to work with Greg Alexander on that track, and you know, it was a very special time in my career. I was in LA, and this crazy guy calls me on the phone, Greg Alexander, telling me he's got this song and everybody wants it and he wants to give it to me, and I was like, holy shit. It was very special. I remember he'd come to my hotel suite in LA, and he has a cassette tape and he plays it and he sings along with this, and I'm like, oh my God, this song is unbelievable. And you know, our friendship just, you know, grew from there, and he's a genius. He's a brilliant songwriter, probably the best pop songwriter of our generation, I think. And yeah, so I've got a couple of those moments. If Tomorrow Never Comes, you know, is another one for me that has people stop me and they say, oh, you know, it was either for the first dance at a wedding, or it was the song played at their parents' funeral or something, and it's one of those songs that kind of crosses over. So that's a very special one. I'm lucky to have a few.
Yeah, there are a lot of classics. And so the final question is, who are your greatest of all time? I mean, you mentioned George.
Yeah, George, definitely greatest of all time. Van Morrison, In the House, always Brown Eyed Girl on repeat in my head as a kid. Elvis Presley. My mom would listen to Elvis a lot. Frank Sinatra. Today it's my warm up in my dressing room before I go on stage. I listen to Frank The Bee Gees for me are the greatest pop band of all time, hands down.
Amazing. Yeah.
The best boy band that ever existed. I don't know if they would like to call themselves that. I was lucky enough to write with them, and sadly, you know, Barry's the only one left. But I mean, you know, the people would say I'm crazy, but for me, it was the Bee Gees over the Beatles. You know, for me, the best pop music ever. The songs are unbelievable, and when you look
There's
at Barry,
a lot of variety as well.
the variety is amazing. When you look at Barry as a songwriter, you don't realise the songs you're listening to Barbra Streisand, to, you know, all the people, Diana Ross, all these people that he wrote for. You know,
there's a great Dionne Warwick record from the 80s.
Unbelievable.
That he
the
did.
stuff Barry wrote, and the Bee Gees, the brothers wrote, is phenomenal.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's possibly the greatest songwriter of all time.
Yeah, I think that's a really good call, and also the first time someone's actually mentioned Barry and the Bee Gees in that answer, which is, you know,
for me,
really
very important. I play them regularly on Magic. They're just the best. I love the Bee Gees.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Ronan.
Thanks for your time. I appreciate it, man. Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Cheers.